of the divine extend. The imagery of the divine face found in Psalms also favors this motif of the identity between the Lord's face and his anthropomorphic form. For example, Psalm 17:15, the Lord's face is closely associated with his form or his likeness. Exodus 33:18 through 23, Psalm 17 verse 15, and 2 Enoch 39:3 through 6. These represent a single tradition in which the divine face serves as the terminus technicus for the designation of the Lord's anthropomorphic extend. The correlation of the divine face with likeness in Psalm 17 verse 15 can also be an allusion to kavod, that is, to the glory of God, which in Ezekiel 1:28 is described as the likeness of the glory of the Lord. This is the same as Moses' experience on Mount Sinai as the vision of God's anthropomorphic glory. The encounter with the divine face is understood as the vision of God's throne. The anthropomorphic extend identified the divine face with his glory. So every time we read about the glory of God and the glory of the Lord in the Scriptures, it is because of his anthropomorphic divine face. That is how the biblical scholarship is beginning to understand this information. There is an anthropomorphic deity. This is what the biblical scholarship is beginning to show. The theophany of the divine face took place in the highest of the heavens. The highest of the heavens is the traditional place, of course, of God's throne, his glory. On page 4, the theophanic description in 2 Enoch, chapter 22, refers to his many-eyed ones, alluding to Ophanim, the wheels, the special class of the angels of the throne, who in Ezekiel 1:18 are described as the angels being full of eyes. Finally, 2 Enoch 22, there is a direct reference to the throne of God, which occupies a central place in the theophany of the mystic. Now, they say it's frightening and dangerous to stand before this throne of glory and to behold this face because it's fiery. There are streams of fire being described. It's very bright. It's dangerous. And yet, the danger motive in Exodus 33 and 2 Enoch implicitly suggest that both these accounts support the idea that the human being can actually see the face of God. Yes. They usually affirm the possibility of such an experience. Exodus implicitly asserts that Moses could see the divine form. Now, in Enoch's situation, what happens is he is transformed. And this is very interesting because his body endures radical changes as it becomes covered with the divine light. The important detail here is that the luminous transformation of Enoch's takes place in front of the radiant face of the Lord. The glory of God sheds itself out onto Enoch and transforms him into a god. He is called the Lesser Yahweh because of that transformation. In fact, the Archangel Michael, he says this on page 5, Orlov says, the Archangel Michael is told by God to extract Enoch from his earthly clothing, anoint him and with delightful oil, and put him into the clothes of the Lord's glory. It's clothing imagery. It's very fascinating. The text describes the actions of Michael, who anoints Enoch with the delightful oil and clothes him. The symbolism of light permeates the whole scene. The oil emanates the rays of the glittering sun, greater than the greatest light. At the end of this procedure, Enoch has become like one of the glorious ones, and there was no observable difference. The reference to the radiance of Enoch's face after his encounter with the Lord is a parallel to the incandescent face of Moses when he came down off Mount Sinai. And the reason, and he says, when they are transformed, these people see things present, past, and future. It changes their entire structure. There's one, it's not here, I think it's in my next paper that I have of Andrei Orlov's, where it describes Enoch being so transformed, his eyes are lightning, his teeth flare out fire, his skin becomes luminous, he can't hardly see his own body, and an angel with ice, who is very cold, comes and puts his hands on Enoch's face so that he cools him down. It's a fascinating imagery. So Andrei Orlov also has a paper called "The Face is the Heavenly Counterpart of the Visionary in the Slavonic Ladder of Jacob." And this is a paper that was put into the Studies in Scripture in Early Judaism and Christianity, edited by C.A. Evans, Sheffield Press, 2001. Orlov notes that the similarities between Enoch and Jacob, as he is described in this Slavonic, the Russian literature, of having seen the glory of God and the fiery heavens and their ascent to heaven through a ladder, has some very remarkable parallels. And he's trying to discuss the literary aspects of this particular type of literature. And we have a Slavonic Book of Enoch now, as well as the Slavonic Ladder of Jacob. So the Russian information here is very interesting. In the Ladder of Jacob, the fiery face, it is described, this face, this throne of glory, and the face on the throne is described as fiery. It not only embodies God's glory, it represents the heavenly counterpart of Jacob. So we've seen the heavenly counterpart of Moses, we've seen the heavenly counterpart of Enoch, we've seen the heavenly counterpart of Adam, and now we have the heavenly counterpart of Jacob also. The image, the idea here, is that all of humanity has a heavenly counterpart on the throne of glory that was pre-existent before this life. Now that's a pure Mormon doctrine that Joseph Smith claims to have restored that at one time was understood and had. It's coming back out now. This pre-existent glory of every one of us. If we knew how great, how wonderful, how divine we all really are, how would you treat your fellow neighbor? How would we treat each other? We've lost this knowledge. Joseph Smith brought it back. Now it's coming out in a lot of the newly discovered texts. It's a fascinating image. This idea that the face is associated with the heavenly image of Jacob, who is engraved on the throne of glory, the actual image itself. Very interesting. Several Targums mention this idea of this face of Jacob on the throne of glory. I won't get into it a whole lot. He says a distinctive feature of this description is that the heavenly counterpart, this is where Jacob dreams about the ladder ascending to heaven, and he ascends back and forth on the ladder. And one of the angels invites him, who is on the ladder. He said, "Hey, come here, Jacob. Come and climb up this ladder and behold the throne and see whose image you see." He actually invites him to do that. So Jacob does. And a distinctive feature of this description is that the heavenly counterpart of Jacob, his image, is engraved on a very special celestial entity on the throne of glory. That's fascinating, isn't it? Now, there's an even more radical identification of Jacob's image with the kavod. Now, his image is engraved on the throne. But Jacob is also associated with the glory. He is a part of it. Are you getting this?